How do you pronounce your surname?
Sure, it's Miazga.
And are you related? There's a guy, Matt Miazga, that played for Chelsea for a
I get
while.
asked that quite a bit. No, I'm actually not. No,
Oh.
I selfishly wish I was, but no.
When I was looking at it, I was like, okay, there can't be that many people with
Yeah, I
that
know.
surname.
Well, I was the same thing when I first saw him on the roster. I was like, get out of Dodge. Like, there's no way that this guy's the same last name. I've never heard my last name anywhere outside of like Wisconsin where I live. So it was pretty ironic to hear that. But yeah, no, it's no relation at all.
And do you go by Tom or Tommy?
Usually Tom. Yeah.
Tom. Okay. Okay. Um, what else was I going to ask you? Whereabouts in Madison are you from, or Wisconsin are you from? Are you near Madison?
Yeah, about 90 minutes east. So I'm just like 20 minutes north of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
No.
No.
What's the other name of the place? The name of the other place. Where they talk kind of funny.
Minnesota?
Minneapolis.
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 Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I flew. I was at the games in 2019 as a
Okay.
spectator, just in
Yeah.
case you were like thinking that I'm some kind of athlete.
No, you're good. You're good.
Um, in in 2019, and we flew into Minneapolis and drove to Madison.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Yeah.
had
So
never I had never driven on what I would call the wrong side of the road.
the wrong side of the road. Yeah.
And I remember we landed, and it was like evening time when we landed, like
Mhm.
dusk. Oh man, I was fucking terrified. Like we got to, what's the name of is it like La Roche or something like that? There's
Lacrosse.
La Crosse,
Yep.
yeah. Oh, we stayed there, and I remember we stayed in an Airbnb, and we got there and there was like nothing. And we were like, okay, we better go look for a shop or a
Okay.
store or whatever.
Yeah.
So, and I think it was a Sunday, but like nothing was open. Like, and it
Huh.
was nighttime. It was like 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at
Yeah.
night.
Yeah. The
And
world kind of shuts down in our parts here around that time. Like it's just like, nope. You go home. You're with your family from like 7 p.m. at night on Sundays, and the town goes quiet until Monday morning. So it's kind of peaceful every once in a while, but it can be inconvenient.
yeah, I didn't find it peaceful.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of like, there's a lot of stuff to get used to. Like when I was
Sure.
driving around,
Oh yeah.
like I've never driven an automatic. I was sitting in the wrong side of the car. I was driving on the wrong side of the road. Every time I came to like a junction, I was like second guessing everything I was doing. You know, I was
Oh
like,
God.
"Oh
Yeah.
wait, do I turn which? Oh, do I cross and then go
Yeah.
right, or do I stay this side and go right?" And I couldn't figure anything out. Plus, I was exhausted, like
Oh,
really
sure.
tired.
That's the worst. Yeah.
Um, and then we found a shop, and it was like a big, um, I can't remember the name of the shop, but it was like a fake version of Walmart. Um,
Okay.
and then came out, got into the car, uh, was like astonished by the amount of Oreo variations there was in the store,
Yeah,
first of all.
dude. Strapped in.
Um,
Dude. Yeah, dude. It's wild.
and then got back into the car, and it absolutely fucking poured. Like I have
Oh,
never seen rain like it in my life.
yeah.
It was really dark, and there was like lightning, like fork lightning. And I was like I was like, this is just like
Why
when
did
did
we
they go
come here? What
missing?
are we doing?
But this is like the trailer of like, and then they disappeared. Like
Yeah,
it
right.
was only going one
You
way.
new
But
world. Yeah.
no, we survived. We survived. But
Good. I'm
yeah,
glad. Yeah.
that was
Fly
terrifying.
into Milwaukee next time. It's way easier.
Is it really?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
I wonder is it cheaper? Um, because
Probably or close to it. It's probably pretty similar.
I'm kind of toying with going this year.
Yeah. You should come on up.
Yeah, but he's expensive. Like
It
from
is.
here,
Yeah.
it's like $1,000
Oof.
for flights.
That's
Um, but like the thing, like a lot of people when they go by Chicago.
Mhm.
Where did you say to go? Milwaukee.
Yeah.
L.
Oftentimes so you might,
Yeah.
especially if you're coming international, there's probably a pretty good chance that you'll connect in O'Hare in Chicago and then fly up to Milwaukee,
Oh yeah.
which is all of like an 8-minute flight. Not even kidding. It's so
Is
annoying.
Milwaukee? That's not the local? That's not. There's another smaller airport in Madison, isn't there?
There's an airport in Madison too. Yeah, but that's gonna be way more expensive, probably.
That'd be like private jet.
Yeah. Privates and small planes and things like that. Yeah. Because even Milwaukee
Yeah.
is you're talking like an hour drive from Milwaukee to get to Madison, so it's really not that horrible.
Fly to New York and then New York to Milwaukee.
There you go.
It's more expensive than. Oh, it's actually, Jesus, really cheap on the way back. Why is it so cheap on the way back?
Don't guess it. Just do it.
No, like it's literally half the price to come back. That is
Who are you?
crazy.
What airline?
Aer Lingus.
Oh, okay.
That's the one with the shamrock. Um, yeah, that's God. That's frustrating. That it's so cheap. Okay, we better get going, I guess, because you've got
You're
coach.
good.
So thanks for doing this. I really appreciate you coming on. This
Hey,
is
absolutely.
this is one of the most, what would you call it? Protracted. I can't remember the word. Where it's like ahead, it's in the future. We planned
No.
this like ages ago, and I
Yep.
remember at the time being like, "Oh, I'm pretty busy with record. I try not to do more than one a day, and like 2 or 3 a week at a push because it's just I feel a bit guilty, with family and stuff." So I was like, "Okay, like end of April, that'll be fine."
Yeah.
And then honestly, totally forgot about it until about like 2 days ago. I was like checking my calendar. I was like, "Oh fuck, I need to like research this guy." I totally forgot about that.
Oh, geez.
And then I messaged you today, fully expecting you to be like, "What? What are you talking about?" So
No
I was
way, dude.
relieved that you'd remembered it.
Yeah, no, I saved that email. I pinned it to the top, waiting with the link, always like waiting for today. Like, I'm excited. This is great.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited to talk to you. Like, fuck, you're an interesting guy. Some of the stuff that I've seen. So, um, first of all, do you drink coffee?
Way too much.
Okay. And are you like picky, or are you just like once it's brown and hot, I don't care?
I have a terrible sweet tooth. So when I first got into it, which it wasn't until after college, I actually didn't have any coffee until after college when I started
Okay.
teaching, which was like essential. I was a I was a coffee with my creamer kind of guy, and then developed a taste over time. So like straight up black coffee is totally fine by me, but um, I'm not usually a super dark. I like more of a medium or lighter roast for
Yeah.
sure. But,
And do you make it at home, or do you always buy out?
yeah, no, I never buy out. Actually, I usually always make it at home. I've got a
Okay,
French
what have you got at home? A French press, is it?
I got a French press. I just got an espresso for my birthday, which I'm pretty pumped about, actually. So, yeah,
Wow.
we're moving up. We're scaling up.
And is that a machine, or is it like
Yeah.
is
So
it
it's
a
like a
pump or a
Keurig.
button?
Yeah, it's like a Keurig, like a self-serving individual cup. But
Okay.
the Nespresso does more fancier things, like it does cappuccinos and Americanos and all those higher end drinks you'd go to Starbucks for $8 for. So, yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Flex your right bicep there again.
Yeah. Did you see that there?
Yeah,
That
that's
guy?
cool, isn't it?
Yeah, right there. Yep.
That's really cool. Is there specific places that you have? Sorry, just for anyone listening, that's an Olympic tattoo.
Yeah.
Is there specific places on your body that you have to get those? Because I never see anyone with it like on their neck or on their, you know what I
Right.
mean? It's always like
No.
thigh or arm.
Right. Yeah. No, I think it's a free for all. Absolutely. I can tell you that I got mine on my right bicep because my idol in swimming growing up was Aaron Pearsall and Matt Grievers, and they were both backstrokers as well. And they both had it on their right bicep. And what was fun about it too is that when you swim backstroke, like that's the only time you can really see the
Oh
tattoo, because as
yeah.
you rotate your hand, it projects your bicep outward. So like as you come through, like that's when you can see it, which is kind of fun. So and it's discreet, if I have to be more professional or hide it away, like it's high enough that I don't
Yeah.
have to worry about that. So
You'd look like a bit of an asshole if you had it like on your forehead.
yeah, right. Just a
um,
massive chest tattoo. Just
and it was 2016. No, 16. Is that when you were at the games?
way back, 2008.
2008. Oh, 2016 is when you stopped.
That's correct. Yeah, I am
Okay,
retired from
sorry.
swimming in 2016. Yeah, but
So
also
2008, that was Beijing, wasn't it?
yeah. Oh man, what a trip.
And okay, how long after you finished competing in Beijing did you get your tattoo?
Um, so I was actually going into my senior year of high school. I was only 17 when I qualified.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was it required summer school before I went. I came back and had to make stuff up still. And so I was like just right in the thick of senior year, still 17 until that March of 2017. So legally I couldn't go on my own and go get one. So I actually waited until my freshman year of college. I pretty much hopped in the pool right away afterwards anyway. And you need to sit out or like bandage it up for 3 weeks and not get, chlorine is supposedly bad. It's going to make the ink run or dry it out. So like, I just wanted to wait till I had an opportune time to like take a significant break. And so I just waited until like my freshman year of college and hopped in a chair and said, I need these on my arm. And he said, done.
I feel if I did something like that, I would barely be dry from the pool in Beijing, and I'd be like, I need anyone in the audience.
Yeah, right. Do it now. I'm here. I made it. Shoot, I would have done it at Olympic trials when I qualified before I even went to the games.
I wonder. Yeah, I wonder is there like etiquette? I wonder is there anyone who has it that's never been there, or like who qualified and got injured, or who qualified and got popped or something, and like has pissed people off by getting it, because it is like a badge of honor of like,
oh yeah,
you see like Yasmin and like a few others. I think Sonny Webster has it. You see a few like, and it is like it's basically like constantly wearing a medal. It's like is instantly recognizable as, oh shit, they were at the Olympics.
Yeah, and I like it just for the fact that if I get old and decrepit and I forget everything else I did in my life, I still got that on my arm so I can remember, hey, I did something. I think I did that.
You can have like a goldfish thing every day of like, what's this? Oh yeah, like every day.
My whole family though keeps joking on me that like by the time I get to that age, it's just be the Olympic ovals because my arm's gonna be sagging too much. So
yeah, that's true. That is awful. That's the prunes, the Olympic prunes. Okay. I listened to you on 2 different podcasts.
Okay.
What was the name of the first one? Work for Change.
Yeah.
And then you were on Type 1.
Yeah, Type 1 lifting
as well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So is it like, and I read, I'd say like 4 or 5 articles, like interview. Some of them seemed like they were written and then they just pulled quotes that they had heard from you in different magazines, and then some of them were like, it seemed like you talking to the person, cool. Like it was like a bio with you talking. Is that like, if you qualify for the Olympics when you were in like 17, at what point did you get like asked to do that kind of thing? And has it ever did it, or are you still waiting for it to become normal to be asked to like talk about yourself or for someone to write about you or whatever?
That's a good question. So the Paralympic system, it's obviously it's very well known across the rest of the world. I think in the US, the Paralympic Games and the Paralympic movement and everything involved is still trying to find its name in the US. It's grown immensely in the last 2 quads, between the 2020 games and the 2016 games. We've made massive changes, which has been awesome, and more public notoriety and more television coverage. But when I went in 2008, like it wasn't even on TV. I had friends staying up at 3 a.m. in the morning to watch me online, where they could find a streaming website that they had to pay for, which was tough because, the rest of the world is broadcasting this live in their countries and, relishing in all the cool things. So I just think I was at the wrong time where it wasn't really it was a huge deal, obviously. And I think within my local neighborhoods, my city is 12,000 people big. So kind of everybody knows everybody's situation. And it was, well known across the city and the community and even into Milwaukee that like, hey, we have Paralympians going over to Beijing this summer. And I think just being 17, it wasn't like, I think I was just too young to be seen as that kind of a public head yet. I definitely did a few interviews within like the local newspapers and the school and a couple of swimming websites and things like that, but nothing to like a grandiose where, I'm out in the national news or world news of that nature. Like none of that really actually happened until I got into CrossFit, to be honest. Like more the public notoriety came with CrossFit than swimming. So
yeah, that's CrossFit's cool, I guess. That's why.
Yeah, it's kind of fun,
So when did you start swimming then?
Yeah, so I started back in like 2nd grade.
What age are you in 2nd grade? You're like 8, 7?
8, 9 years old. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll make this incredibly long but really cool story as short as I can. So when I started swimming in 2nd grade, it was because my 2nd grade teacher, his name is Steve, was the one that prodded me into swimming. I grew up with I have 3 older siblings. All of them are totally ambulatory and played a myriad of sports, soccer, cross country, baseball, volleyball, whatever. And I couldn't quite obviously fit in with that. I use a wheelchair most of the time to get around with my cerebral palsy and specifically spastic diplegia, but I still can get up on my feet. I walk around, I'd walk around on the pool deck. I'm a full-time swim coach now, and I still walk on deck all the time.
What?
But
Sorry, what word did you use to describe your siblings? Uh,
uh,
something.
oh, ambulatory.
Is that just like
Fully
they're
walking, fully functional.
I've
Yep.
never heard that before. And how is there a equivalent term that you'd use to describe yourself then?
Well, I would say I was more in reference of like action. I would say able-bodied versus disabled are kind of
Okay.
the connotations there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry, yeah, go on.
No, you're good. You're good. And so when I was in elementary school, all of my siblings ahead of me had Steve for a second grade teacher. And so by the time I got to second grade, he already knew who I was and what I was coming in with. And very quickly, just we built this immediate relationship of, that was more than just teacher student. It was like kind of like a buddy system in a way. And I go out to recess and I'd be in my wheelchair on the blacktop and I'd see all my classmates playing soccer or football together, knowing like I can't quite get in that, or I'll like, want to bust a kneecap or something trying to get out there. And so he voluntarily, without any question, without any hesitation, just started playing shooting hoops with me every single day at recess. And like we just got to know each other really well through that. And he was one of the few male teachers at the school. So, he was kind of like the cool teacher and everybody wanted to be around him. So as soon as people saw me and Steve shooting hoops, like kids started getting envious and started coming over. And, it kind of helped me build relationships with other kids and kind of show them like, hey, I'm more than just this wheelchair. Like, but he was just starting his local swim club at the time. And I had always known swimming as just like vacation, right? Like you're in the ocean, you're in a pool, you're having fun. Like I didn't realize that you could actually like swim back and forth for laps for competitive reasons and, for training. And I ended up joining his swim team right then. And I think this was 2001, 2002. And just totally fell in love with it. It was the first time that I felt like my disability wasn't a hindrance. It was a place where like I almost felt like a superhuman, where the anti-gravity of the water and the, just the general flow of how the body reacts to the waves, like made me feel like I could do anything. It was one of those things where in gym class, I'd stand on one foot for 5 seconds and fall over. I could stand on one foot in the bottom of the pool for 5 days and be there totally fine. And it was just so cool for me to have that experience and that exposure to say like, I just found an avenue to reaching potentials that I didn't think I was ever going to imagine even thinking would be possible. And at this age of, 8, 9 years old, like who the hell is thinking that way? Right. But it was really cool to have that. And Steve basically carried me through until 5th grade, when he got moved to 5th grade. I was in his 5th grade class again, but then I had one of my last surgeries. They went in and did a whole bunch of muscle lengthening in my lower half. And that obviously took me out of the water for a while. I had to relearn how to walk again. But I came out better than before, which, you always hope for. And I was actually able to get up and run enough that I actually played baseball, which was something I always wanted to do. I played in the same league as my brother did. And so that was really cool. Did that through middle school. But then found the pool again in my freshman year of high school. So this is like, I'm 13, 14 years old, only 3 years removed from potentially making the games again, which was never even a thought. I went through my first year of high school, and Steve wasn't my high school coach, but he was already on deck with the club team coming in after us. And one day he was at home watching the movie, The Remember the Titans. I don't know if you've ever seen that one. It's yeah. All right. So long story short there, the star quarterback, spoiler alert, gets in a car accident, gets T-boned, gets paralyzed waist down. And at one point in the movie, he ends up telling his teammates, like, I'll be fine, no worries. Like, I found out there's sports for people in wheelchairs. And Steve's at home watching this thinking, like, I wonder if this is a real thing. Like, Googles it and finds the Paralympic organization, comes to one of our swim practices the next day and like sits me down and says, like, I found this. We need to go do this. And the words that have always stuck with me, because he's been such an influence in my life, is he sat down and said, I've been to every single level of swimming competition that there could be except the Olympic Games. And if I'm going to get anybody there, I'm going to get you there. And I was just like, oh, okay, that's amazing. I'm like so taken aback by this, and so we went to our first national meet not a few months after I finished that high school season. got myself classified because there's different classes of which you swim in of relative disabilities. And 6 months later, I was down in Rio de Janeiro at the Pan American Games, and I won 6 medals out of 7 events, and it just took off from there. It exploded. It was just one of those things where I was waiting for the right avenue to not only use this superpower to kind of feel better about myself, but see that like it exists for other people as well. Like getting to that first meet and seeing other individuals walk the same way I had was such a surreal moment. Cause I'm like, again, like how I thought I was the only one. Like this is crazy. So, and just knowing that we all had that same competitive drive and that same focus was just really cool to be able to take back to my normal training and know like this is on the horizon, this is on the future. So ultimately, we never planned on 2008 being our games situation. We always thought that 2012 would be the case because I'd be a junior in college. You know, I'll be pretty much fully developed, bigger, stronger, faster. So when we surprisingly qualified when I was 17 years old, anything that happened after that was just icing on the cake. So yeah, it was a pretty fast escalation with a lot of trials and tribulations that you know, it's just surreal to like talk about knowing like that happened. Like that's pretty cool.
Lucky you have a tattoo to remind yourself it was real.
Yeah, right. Just in case.
So when you were growing up then, because like, okay, I assume that's why you became a teacher then, because of Steve.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, I
That's
was
cool.
so lucky. I think my whole life is defined by the word reciprocity and the idea that I know how much I've been given, and not like in the material sense, but just the opportunity and the avenues to see potential. And I can rattle off names of people, family, friends, teachers, coaches who have given me so much that I only feel it's right in my life to give it back in the same way. So teaching worked honestly really well with my future hopes. I actually went into college planning on being a physical therapy major. You know, that was another area that I was totally comfortable with because I'd been a part of it for my entire life. And you know, it's kind of, you know, hoping to take it more of a sports med route and stuff because I've always loved being athletic. And when that didn't happen for me, teaching was just the perfect fit because it was still kind of the same, you know, hands-on, opportunistic view and get to work with people. You're outgoing, but it's just to, you know, just to know that I could finish that full cycle, you know, come full circle and give back what was given to me has been the greatest thing about it. So it's been awesome.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I'm a teacher as well, and I honestly don't think I will ever impart that kind of drive in someone else to be like, I want to be just like him.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I can't see that happening.
Yeah.
So when you're growing up, then, like, can you remember, like, did you always know you were different, or
Oh
was there a point in time where you were like, hang on, like, it's because obviously, like, you're so as you grow up, like, say, I have a 2-year-old, and like she's still at the stage now where she doesn't see anybody as different to anybody. Like,
no,
you
yeah, I love
know,
that. Yeah,
some people are tall, some people are short, but like apart
yeah,
from that, everyone's just people. So it's fine.
yeah,
And even some dogs seem like they're people. And I'm kind of watching her, waiting for like, when is she going to realize that, you know, that person's skin color is different, or that person's hair color is different, or like, you know, that person's in a wheelchair, that person's what, like, I'm
right.
waiting for her to start noticing stuff like that. And I'm curious, like, for someone who's in that position, who like is different, like you mentioned, being on, you know, yard with um other kids playing football and stuff, and you
Yeah.
not being able to do that, or not feeling like you're able to join in. Like, was there a point? Did it come with like watching your brothers and stuff that you realize, like, oh, wait a minute, like this, like one of these things is not like the other, kind of?
Yeah, I think it was, you know, unfortunately, kind of a harsh reality pretty early on. I mean, I had used, I had one of my most significant surgeries then in that third grade time when I had just kind of started swimming. But even before then, I was using a walker to get around. I was really high up on my toes, and so my Achilles were so tight that I couldn't fully put my heel on the floor. And so I'm basically walking around like a ballerina on my tiptoes all the time. So, you know, I was prone to falling every 6, 7 steps. Um, I knew right out the gate, not all my friends fall like this. Not all my friends have to deal with this. And I think I had to mature at a very young age because, you know, I realized as cool as my community and my schooling and everything has been, you know, kids were fine. They understood me. They just kind of accepted me for what I was and what I was dealing with. I also knew like no kid is thinking about how they're walking right now or thinking about like, oh my God, that's like, I'm so tired. I can't keep my legs going, but like I have to. Like they're not having to go through those kind of moments. And having to get pulled out of class to go to physical therapy while in school. It's just those little nuances where I had to accept that like this is my normal. And again, I'm very fortunate that for most of my life, everyone's been pretty good about it. Obviously, there's been bully situations. There's been times where life has been less than enjoyable because of it. But for the most part, like I knew that if I could continue to give myself the opportunity to maybe get away from this and kind of see myself as a more abled person in the future, like I have to do it now. Yeah, it's an interesting question because I don't know how much I've actually thought about that and how much of it was just an automatic switch at a very young age.
You always knew it was autonomous or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, like I could tell you about instances probably even in kindergarten. So like when I'm 5, 6 years old, where I knew like this ain't going to work. And so like, and it's just one of those things where it's just been that way forever. I think about so many of my Paralympic teammates in the past who have joined the Paralympic team because they came from an injury, and they have an able-bodied life, and now they have, a disability to handle and to work around or work with and adapt with. So it's like, I am always so grateful to like have had cerebral palsy from birth because one, I know how lucky I am to have the type of CP that I have. I know it ranges on such a wide spectrum of you barely notice it to you need a full-time care support and you can barely do anything on your own. So like to be able to live a fully functional life, is pretty humbling in that regard. But yeah, I just don't ever see it being anything that I haven't dealt with. So it's just what it is,
And is it like, so you mentioned the different grades or different severities of it. Is yours, so, okay, cerebral palsy, first of all, is it, it's something to do with the brain sending a signal to the muscle, isn't it? Like telling it to be tense basically or something?
Love it. Exactly. Yeah. So neuromuscular disorder. And with mine specifically, it's more one of those situations where I tell my lower half to do some sort of function, walk, jump, skip, run, right? And at some point in my spinal cord, which is at some undefined place, like, we've done enough digging around to try and figure things out. Like the neurons, the neurotransmitters in there just freak out and they panic and they just send these high intense spastic messages to my legs instead. So like, as I try and tell myself to walk, my hip flexors and my glutes and my Achilles and my calves, they tense up really big. So when I walk, it's very drunkardly in a way because I use so much of my lower back and it's like much more of a swinging gait rather than a heel toe. Like
is it painful? Like, is it, because if you're tense all the time, or do you just kind of get used to it?
Yeah, no, growing pains sucked pretty bad when I was younger.
Okay.
Kind of growing up, as my bones would stretch, my muscles wouldn't come with them because my muscles were so tight. That's hence like a lot of the reasons I had the surgeries I did.
Is that the physio as well? Was kind of to loosen you up?
Oh yeah,
daily
all
kind
the
of thing?
time.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't even like strength training. It was literally just laying on the table, getting stretched all the time. And
when you get into the water and you're swimming, are your legs like passengers then? Like, is it all?
yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I mean, I would say any sort of kick that I got, which was a larger range of motion, because there's a little bit more weightlessness in the water, so the range of motion that I was able to garner through kicking was way better than on dry land. And so any of my kicking was more just for body line rather than propulsion. So it was more for buoyancy than anything, and just trying to keep my body in line so my arms didn't have to work as hard. But yeah, it was those neurological systems that just kind of panic. And so when I was kind of getting into swimming as well too, I found a really big sensitivity to temperature. So really cold water caused my spasticity to really act up. Specifically, it's called clonus, where your legs just kind of shake and tremor where they are, and they really get erratic and almost that would get pretty painful when I was younger because they'd cramp incredibly bad. Since then, I think as my muscles have fully developed and just gotten used to life, like it's really not a thing anymore. But it was definitely a lot of trial and error of trying to figure out what's, how do I calm this down? How do I handle this better? How do I manage this? So it was, yeah, I think it was just kind of getting used to the stimulus more than anything, because water temperatures weren't really changing that much. So it was just like, get your body used to it, get in, keep going.
The surgeries then, were they like, did they take muscle from somewhere else and lengthen the muscle, like lengthen your hamstring? Is it that kind of thing,
No,
or
this is like next level elite deep tissue massages. Like they went
okay?
in and they went in by hand, and hand lengthened my muscles. Like they pull them apart like taffy. Yeah, they lengthen them out so that the bone muscle proportion would stay equivalent as my legs were growing and stuff.
And is that like, are you assessed to see if you're a candidate for that? Or is it like, as in, because you mentioned there that you couldn't swim or walk or whatever for a while after you had
Yeah.
surgery once. So is it a case of like, do they sit you down and say, all right, you're going to take like 5 steps back, but trust us, it like you'll take 10 steps forward by the time you're
Yeah.
better? Or
Yeah.
like,
I mean, I was very fortunate to have a great pediatrician growing up, and who, also worked with the orthopedic surgeon team and stuff. And so from a very young age, we obviously knew something was different. I didn't actually start walking and thinking until I was like 2. And I was
yeah.
still holding on to furniture and holding on to things like, and that was like, I think 2.5, almost 3 before I started like going things. And that's when they really noticed how I had to swing and my walk was so different. So like we, hopped on the train with an orthopedic surgeon right away, and the pediatricians, and just had a continual monitor of situations. It wasn't anything new to them, I guess. It was new to us because we had nobody in my family had ever
Mm.
experienced this yet. So it was just
Is it just a neurological fluke? Like, is it hereditary, or like, is it a latent thing, or?
yeah, no, it's not hereditary. We've gone through the whole ancestor tree and everything, and there's been no other really known cases in my family. But a lot of it is actually due to birth complications and birth
Okay.
procedures. So I'll say this: actually, most of it is unknown. I had no complications. I was on time. I had no umbilical cord strangulations. I didn't was, premature babies are a huge proponent for CP. Like I said, the umbilical cord strangulation. So if the umbilical cord gets wrapped around the neck during,
Mm.
birth, that's another thing where the deprivation of oxygen to the brain. But a lot of it's unknown. It's just one of those things.
It's mad. And it is so your family obviously had no real experience or anything like this. So then there's obviously a lot of adjustment there to be made. And like, if your siblings were all like quite sporty and stuff, you seem to have an attitude like pretty earlier on. You mentioned that you had to kind of just mature and just be like, right, screw it, I just have to get on with it. Like even getting
Yeah.
into the cold water and stuff. Is that hereditary? Like, did your parents have that thing of like, look, you're just gonna have to suck it up and get on with it? Because I know an easy way through things like this is like, right, where's the cotton wool? Let's wrap them up and not let them
Yeah,
do
right.
anything.
Yeah, no, I think that's the biggest blessing I've ever had in my life, is that if I was wanting to do something, or I wanted to go out and try something new, my parents never said no. Because, you know, all of us in our family have no idea what's going to happen, right? None of
Mm,
us have experienced what this is going to be like. And so when I went to try out for the, soccer team or the football team, right, I wanted to be goalie. I'm like, there's less running as a goalie. Like, I'll just stand there. Like, that's cool. I can handle it. And 2 days in, I figured out I can't handle it. It's not for me. But my parents didn't say no, like, your legs don't work, you can't go play. Like, no, they were very supportive of that. And I have, 3 very active siblings as well, and they never saw any reason to slow down or to say I couldn't participate with them. Or we grew up in a great neighborhood of kids, and so, we always got together and did things. So playing baseball or playing football together was never like an odd thing. It was just like, yeah,
mm,
Tom's here, we're playing with him too. And I just knew, like, when I got to school, it was a different kind of game. It was more
yeah.
aggressive, and it was just a lot more people. So it wasn't very safe for me to try and get involved in that regard. But no, my family and Steve and everybody has been gung ho, like, yeah, he wants to do it, we're just gonna try it. So
Have you ever played any other wheelchair sports? Have you ever played like have you ever seen wheelchair rugby? That's like
oh,
fucking intense.
murder ball is the best thing ever. Yeah, we actually got to catch the gold medal game when I was in Beijing in 2008, and it was riveting. But I did a little bit of wheelchair basketball in elementary school. They actually, a local team came to our school as like a presentation for a day, and I was like, "Yep, strap me in, let's go." Like, I'm gonna come over, and It was all right, but I've never been a huge basketball guy, so it wasn't
Yeah.
just my big interest.
Just wasn't the same as shooting hoops with Steve. It just
Dude, I
didn't
tell
have the
you,
same.
it's up there. It's stuck up there. But I did a little bit of sled hockey a couple years ago. I tried playing sled hockey, which was pretty
How
cool.
does that work? How do you propel yourself with your
Oh,
stick?
yeah. So there's actually like ice picks on the bottom. You have two small sticks, and you're sitting in your chair, and there's ice picks on the bottom. You're just chugging along like you're doing a biathlon
Wow.
too.
Is there as many fights in that as there is in like normal ice hockey? Because I'm thinking a stick with picks on the end of it
Yeah.
is like as that should be called murder puck
That's
then,
weapons.
surely.
Yeah, you got weapons all over the place. No, there are not that I know of. I only did it for about a year.
Yeah,
It was great. But we had to practice. Ice time is so hard to find that like our team got on so late on Sunday nights, and I'm like already thinking about lesson plans and going to bed that I'm like,
yeah.
I can't keep doing this.
When you were a kid, then was there? You mentioned like bullying and stuff. Like little bits. It like has that have you had that the whole way up? Like, do you have that now? Because I know, like people are fucking idiots. So, like, if anybody sees anything different, they'd
Yeah.
stare. Like, and I know it's
Oh, I
human
know.
nature. I know it's like your brain just says, like, keep looking at that, what's happening there, because I need to make sense of it. I need to process
Yeah,
what's happening.
right.
So don't look away. I need to take in all the information.
Yeah.
But then at some point, like politeness should kick in, and you should
Yeah.
like avert your gaze. But like, have you like have you felt, say, society's attitude towards you change as you've grown up, or have you been fighting the same, like, assumptions or the same kind of looks all the way up?
Sure. I would say it's been pretty standard. I haven't seen a lot of change, and it's all been great. I've obviously like I think in middle school was the one time that I had a bit of a blip with, a whole bunch of boys in the soccer team and stuff, and just wanting to try and fit in and find my niche, and just wasn't going to be with those guys, but I somehow in my brain couldn't let that go. I just tried too hard, I think, and um, my true friends came out of that situation and kind of trying to figure out like what do I really need here? What am I trying to find? And it was
Mm.
other people that I never would have thought to be my best friends that really were my best friends and people I'd still like to communicate with. I still communicate with today. Um, I think the biggest thing right now is I've always let my personality kind of do my talking for me, and I think being somebody that's always been kind of a go-getter, and I haven't let my disability slow me down, and just kind of put myself out there. And I won't lie, I'm stupidly stubborn. Like I'm very independently stubborn. Like I don't like getting help very often. If I'm carrying something, like no, I'll figure it out. Because in my mind, I've always been like, okay, what if you're alone and you have to do this? How are you going to figure it out? It's like I've always taken that scenario and said like, okay, we'll practice right now. And so I think people,
There's a quote that I read from you that really stuck out. And I've left some words out just so it's quicker
yeah,
because it was a long quote. But it's like, I think there's something about being something about having a disability that makes you, I can't even read my own writing, that makes you want to be independent. It's this need to prove to yourself that you can achieve things. And I was like, holy fuck, that is so profound. Like, it's so, like, obviously there's a line of stubbornness where it's like, okay, you're flogging a dead horse here, you need to just stop. But like
yeah,
the things that you've done, like the achievements that you've made, like we'll go through some of the stuff that you've done since you found CrossFit, like, and considering all the adaptations you would have had to make, and like kind of like macheting a new path in certain ways, like with certain things, because like there was nothing really there, so it's all kind of like, I don't know, let's try this. But
mhm,
like the things that you've done, and then the swimming and the, like, even hearing you talk now and saying that you were fighting, like, cold water and having to deal with the struggle of that or the pain of that, and then coming back after surgery and fighting again. And like you mentioned the um Pan America, you were
yeah.
there, I think you were there twice, were you?
I've
um
gone to those at least twice. Yeah, I've had a good handful of international meet experience. Yeah.
yeah, and then like the Olympics and stuff, it's honestly mind-boggling, like when I think of the things that are so easily within my grasp, that I'm like, oh fuck it. like
Mhm.
the like little like adherence to a diet, or
Yeah.
like anything, like, and I'm
Yep.
sure there's people listening who are the same, who at least once this week have been like, oh fuck it, I'm not bothered. And like to the hurdles that you've had to overcome to do the things that you want to do, and to prove, like, from hearing you talk and from reading things about you, to prove to yourself, which is remarkable, because a lot of people develop a thing of like, oh, I'll fucking show them, whereas you seem to have it more of like, I want to see if I can do it, and then I think I can, so now I'm going to
Yeah.
do it. So I think it's like, it's absolutely remarkable, the just the sheer volume of achievements that you've had. But Wheelwad, so you've won that like, I don't know, 100,000 times.
So, okay, hold on now.
When you, so did you find CrossFit as uh like, did you find CrossFit and start doing it, or were you doing like strength training, and then someone was you saw someone doing CrossFit, or did you join an
Yeah.
affiliate? Like, how did you come to start doing CrossFit in the first place?
Yeah, no, this is great. So, I officially retired from swimming in the beginning of 2016. I was in my student teaching semester of college, so I was basically in a classroom day in and day out. Wasn't really even taking classes anymore. I was just getting, straight up school exposure. And I was coming up on that fall, would have been my first year as an actual teacher. Looking for jobs, trying to find my job, and I just had a pragmatic moment when I was at my last swim meet of like, I woke up on the last day and said, who the hell is going to hire a first year teacher who needs to miss the first month of the school year to go to the Paralympic Games? Like, pretty hard, slim pickings there. I mean, and it was cool to think like, Rio in 2016 could have been a possibility. And I actually missed the games in 2012. And so this was kind of like my redemption song, like hoping like, 2008 wasn't a fluke. But I just told myself like, I don't want to come home from the games, potentially making the games, and then not have anything to do for 9 months until I can actually find another teaching job. And so I
Especially,
just
I suppose, at the part, it's not like it doesn't have the gravitas in the States as the Olympics does. So then
at that point, right,
people won't be like,
exactly.
yeah, cool, no problem. They'll be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, well, that and even the dates. I mean,
Mm,
the Olympic Games are at the beginning of August, but the Paralympic Games don't start until September when school's
yeah.
already in session. So, like, even there, if we were in August, maybe it's a different story because I'm not missing a lot of school, but I'm missing a whole
Yeah.
full-fledged month. And so it was
That's
just,
that's the only reason I don't go to the Olympics. Sorry, go on.
it's. I think most
That
people
and
would
an inherent lack of skill
too.
and drive.
But needless to say, I then, I retired early in 2016 and was fortunate enough to get my first teaching job starting that fall. And um, obviously wanted something to keep me physically going. I wasn't super inclined to keep swimming at that point or training very hard, even though I know it's very good for my lower body. And one of our affiliates had just opened up not recently before that. And I had a couple of buddies that were going there and just like, yeah, you should try this CrossFit thing. And I will fully attest that I was one of those guys watching YouTube fail videos of CrossFit, thinking like, why are this is stupid. Like, what are you doing? Are you kidding me? Um,
I was also one of
so
those people.
I'm probably on there somewhere, but I I went to that gym and neighboring them was a chiropractic company. And so I was like, okay, let's go talk to them. Let's go figure things out. They're called MMT, muscle and movement therapy. And so when I joined with them, I actually worked with them before the actual CrossFit affiliate and just got some basic movements down. We kept working on, hip placement and posture and different ways to squat and make sure I was getting the same needs that I was getting out of the pool. Because I wanted to make sure I could walk around my classroom, well enough and feel like my abilities in the classroom wasn't slowing down learning for my students, right? That was like a subconscious fear.
Mm.
And so I wanted to make sure I was staying agile and mobile. And very quickly we escalated to working with one of the trainers at the gym and incorporating some more intricate movements and adding some dumbbells. And then they said the magic word pull-ups. And I'm like, done. Like those are my jam. And so,
You're like, give me a pull-up bar and a skier, and
right,
I'm there
dude,
all day.
100%. And so, yeah, very quickly, about a couple months into the process, I think I joined officially on like in early August of 2016. And then I think I was doing the open by 2017 in February. So it was just like one of the things where I've been a glutton for punishment, and like I enjoy making my body feel terrible because I'm really like I enjoy the reward of that, like knowing how hard I pushed myself and that I went beyond limits that I thought I was never going to see. There's something about that both in the water and then in CrossFit that has been like really motivating for me. And kind of drawn me into it. So when I got that exposure again in the CrossFit scene, I was like, oh, I found my competitive drive again, like I had with swimming, but like I think I have a lot more control over this environment now. You know, it was one of
Yeah.
those things where swimming and especially Paralympic swimming is such a specific niche of people, right? Like you got to have this disability and you got to be able to do this and have these certain times, you know, and all of that. And then you come to CrossFit and it's just like, you know how to move your body? Cool. Come on in. We'll make it work. You know, and it's
Yeah.
like, you don't know how to move your body? Cool. Well, come on in. We'll make it work. You know, and it was one of those things where it's just like a whole new perspective on ability and fitness. And one that I thought I was strong. I thought after swimming for 15 years, like I got this. I got a good body. I'm in shape. I can swim for days. And I got on a rower for the first time at CrossFit and nearly puked right at like 400 meters in. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Help me. And so, like to see the change in that, you know, alone and just kind of like feel myself feel healthy and feel
Mm.
strong and just know that like that exercise driven motivation led to lifestyle changes of eating better and thinking more about sleep and mobility and just all these things where like I can confidently tell you now that like if I didn't start CrossFit when I did, or even if I never have started CrossFit, I'm not sure if I, you know, have kids down the road and 20 years from now, when I'm over 50 years old, I don't know if I'd be able to walk around with my kids. I can
Mm.
tell you today, upright, I could carry 2 kids upstairs right now if I had to, which is, you know, really cool to think that like that could be a possibility.
Yeah.
So, yeah, CrossFit started in late 2016 for me, and um, kind of like how Steve actually Google or found Paralympic swimming. I'm just like, all right, I'm gonna learn from what I have already known. I literally Googled, CrossFit for people in wheelchairs, and that's when Wheelwod had popped up, and they had only began in 2011, 2012, but they're really, really got things going. I think in 2016, 2017, right when I started. So, yeah, I just did the Wheelwod Open in 2017, and just the rest went from there. So.
Oh, um, so you finished first in the Open in 2021 and you finished first in the Open in 2022
Mhm.
and first in America and stuff. Um, and that's so your category is seated with hip. Will you just explain to me what that little adage at the end means?
Of course. So, um, for a long while, Wheelwad was 3 generic categories of seated athletes, standing upper impairment, so missing an arm, issues
Yeah,
there, brachial plexus, to then standing lower, obviously your amputees that are below the knee, at the hip, whatever it may be. So lower limb issues. Um, as we've garnered more population, we've just drawn a bigger crowd, we've been able to just kind of branch out and see that like, hey, just calling it seated athletes is not really fair to the paraplegics or that can't get out of their chair or have a big difficulty getting in and out of their chair versus me who could literally stand up and walk out of my chair. Like you think about that movement in a workout alone, that transition from the floor to chair or
yeah,
chair to floor, it's just like an unfair advantage, right? And so it was after 2018 that we moved to seated with hip and seated without hip. And it's basically what it sounds like. It's the seated without hip are mostly your paraplegics, your TBIs that are incomplete spinal cord issues where just any sort of hip function, hip thrust, hip, standing abilities are not there. So most of
yeah,
their workouts are completely done in the chair. There's a little bit of in and out of the chair, but even then, it's required. There's assistance of somebody holding the chair or positioning it a certain way. Like they aren't walking back to their chair.
yeah,
And then obviously with hip, we are individuals who can do full hang gymnastics or hang from a bar out of our chair with our feet on the floor. We can do anything out on the floor. And obviously with a little bit more hip drives, like a lot of us can actually press through our heels a little bit more, activate our calves, hip flexors, quads, whatever it may be. So there's a little bit more ability to drive weights through, a little bit more momentum and a little bit more drive. So we often go a little bit heavier on weights than we would a seated without hip.
yeah,
And so I think, it was pretty cool that I went to Wadapalooza in 18 or 19, I think. And that was my first real like major CrossFit competition exposure. And that was just an incredible scene to be a part of. And I quickly came back after that and I put it on my Instagram that I was so motivated by everything that I'd seen. I'd been working on this on my own, but I actually was able to do I was handstand walking. So I got out of my chair and started handstand walking. And I don't know if that's the actual reason, but I would bet you that that's a lot of the reason why we have seated with hip and without hip.
Do you think that there needs to be like is seated with hip? Well, just from your experience, say from when you're in your lane at a competition and you look across at the other athletes that are in the same category as you, do you think that categorization is enough, or do you think that there's also subcategories within that category? Because like you mentioned that some of us can drive through our heels and some of us can, and then the flip side of that is obviously people that can't do that in your category who are like, this isn't fair.
Yeah, no, I hear you there. I think if you break it down any further, you're going to lose population and you're going to lose interest. I think just because it's going to be so specific that people are going to try and like claim certain things.
Yeah.
I think it's very imperative that we have a break between seated with hip and without. And what was actually really cool about Wadapalooza this past season is that we all competed against each other, but we all had relative weights. So seated without hip did a lighter weight, but we all did the same rep scheme and same standards. So it was really fun because it was competitive all in an equal sense, which was really cool. I think what could be done is a lot of in our upper impairment or lower impairments, they have a 2 point of contact versus a 1 point of contact. So guys that still push press with two hands versus guys that press with one hand, and they oftentimes for the one-armed individuals would do like a multiplier on their score. So like, hey, they bench pressed 135 on 1 point of contact, but we're going to give them a 0.75 multiplier. So like relative to a two-arm person, that would be this, kind of like a conversion system. I could maybe see that being a situation in the future. But I'm also under the sense of like, I'll toot my own horn when I say like, I train very hard and I love training. And like, if you want to be the best, you got to train like the best. You got to get after it and make yourself suffer a little bit. So some of that, and that's what you're going to see with Chris Stoutenberg, who's the Wheelwod games director. He does not care at all how you feel about things or how.
Yeah, I follow him on Instagram.
He's just like
he's
he's a savage in that regard. He's just like, figure it out, do it, and that's I kind of taking to that mantra. So yeah.
I was looking at so I mentioned that you won the Open in 2021 and 2022, and those are the 2 years where the adaptive field was added to the Open. And in 2019, you finished 152,000th around somewhere. Was that just the Open then?
That was just the Open, and that I think was just in North America, or even maybe worse. I don't know. Maybe more specific.
No, like not worse is ridiculous. No, that was
not worse.
I'm pretty sure that was North America. But so like when you did the Open that year, did you adapt it yourself, or did you just go to like?
No, I think what I actually had done, I think, and I apologize for the lead up. I think I had actually signed up for it, hoping that the first workout would be something that I'd be able to physically do given the standards. And even at a scaled standard, like I just wanted to like put be able to do that workout as able-bodied as possible.
Yeah.
And I don't think it worked out that way. So I think I submitted one score and then that was it for the rest of the season because I just did the Wheelwod stuff. I remember definitively adapting them. And that's what you do at that time, that's what we did with Wheelwod is where the workout would come out like on a Thursday night announcement for CrossFit. We would get our announcement on Friday because we would see the workout Thursday. They would go and Wheelwod would adapt it. And then we'd have from Friday until Tuesday to do the workout, which was relatively similar, like the same stimulus. It was just making sure that movements were adapted so that, every division was spoken for, so.
When you gave up swimming then, it kind of sounds like it was just at the right time, like that you just kind of, it wasn't like taken away from you, or it wasn't
no.
So did you have to, like, did you ever feel a bit lost after? Or do you think did CrossFit come around quick enough that it was just kind of like, oh, this is just my new thing now?
Yeah, I think CrossFit was a good solution to a gradual realization that, like, I can tell that not swimming is not going to be the answer. Like,
Mm,
I had to do something, right? Because I found myself sitting more and more. And as the classroom got really busy, it was hard to feel like I could get around on my feet all the time and make that work. So I spent more and more time in my wheelchair. And so it was just kind of one of those things where, like, all of a sudden I'm like, I think I'm atrophying quite a bit. And my hips aren't coming with me as quickly as I'd like them to. And I'm dragging my toes a little bit more often. And so it was just one of those realizations of, like, we got to find something to, to curb this off a little bit. So,
yeah.
yeah.
It's interesting. I challenge myself to read a book a month because I'm something of a
Good for
nerd.
you.
No, I'm
I love
absolutely
it.
shit at reading. So I'm like, okay, I need to I need to train myself to read because like I'm a teacher and I've been basically lying to kids for years, being like, you should read. I read all the time. It's really important.
Yeah, right.
Um, but I was reading a book, The War of Art, and it's nothing to do with athletics or like being an athlete or anything, but just something that you're talking about really like thumped me in the back of the head there, where the guy that wrote it was talking about um hierarchical versus territorial living. So like
Okay.
hierarchical living is like those soccer kids you were talking about, like I want to be accepted and I want to be,
Yeah.
like where do I fit in with this group and what like
Right.
where am I in the pecking order, like how I need to find my spot. And that people that do that, like in general, unless they're at the very top, aren't happy because they're either trying to claw their way up above someone that's ahead of them, or they're looking over their shoulder trying to stay ahead of the people that are behind them, and they're trying to, like they just can never relax, like they can never just
Yeah.
be. They're always like kind of struggling a bit. Whereas territorial is more about like he told the story of like a three-legged coyote
Hmm.
in his town who owned all the bins because it was his town. And even though he only had three legs, it was his, and everyone knew it was his, and
That's
no other coyotes came around because like it's his fucking town. So like, don't bother.
yeah.
Um, and he was saying like in a hierarchy, he's screwed. Like in the animal kingdom, like he's in
Yeah.
trouble.
Yeah.
But whereas in the territorial like type of life, he's fine. And he was saying that for artists, or I actually think he did mention creatives or athletes as well, he was kind of saying like the territorial living is like the pool,
Hmm.
where it's like you felt useful, you felt safe, you felt like you're in that state of flow, you just had like a good vibe from it and it energized you afterwards. And now hearing you talk about CrossFit, it seems like it's the same thing, where it's like
Oh
it's
yeah.
energizing you to go there and it's giving you like okay, purpose is maybe a bit of a heavy one, but it's giving you motivation to, do things, test yourself, push yourself, and
Sure.
it's transferring over the beliefs and the skills that you built up from swimming into this new niche.
Yeah, and I think that's like the best blessing I've actually gotten from CrossFit, because I think I lived, especially when things got so successful so quickly with swimming at such a young age, I got very hierarchy driven, trying to make sure like I'm up there and I'm with the best. And I was focused on that. And as my career started to dwindle and come to an end, I stopped because I finally got to a point where I was like happy with what I had achieved. For like those high school to collegiate and post collegiate life, that was like just trying to be like enough and fit in
Mm,
and like make sure I'm doing all the things that I need to be the best, and be right there with all those people that I always adored. And so when I finally retired, it was like that I had that moment of like, nope, I did a lot and that was great. And I am very proud of that. And then come to CrossFit and it's that same realization I had, but all the time, because it's not about how you compare yourself to others. It's how you compare yourself to how you did yesterday and the day before or the year before. Right. And being able to realize that and see like, hey, I couldn't even, think about doing a muscle up 3 years ago. And now I'm stringing 15 plus together. Like, or like it's those things that you get so lost on seeing in the daily flow of things that make you appreciate what you do so much more, because you don't realize how bad you wanted to be the person you are 5 years ago, and then you see that person now and it's like, that's awesome, and it's really cool, because I can tell you that 5 years ago, when before I found CrossFit or just, was leaving the pool, like I was trying to find who I was at that point. My whole life had been swimming. And so to be, here in this very present moment, talking about my accomplishments in life that have led me to where I am, like, it's really surreal because the 5 year ago me would never have thought that had been possible.
You're a fucking cool guy, Tom.
I appreciate that, man. Thank
Yeah.
you.
That was motivating as shit. That was good. That was a good soundbite.
I love
Um,
it.
I tell you what, I'm really, really proud of myself that that is the first time that I have referenced a random book that I read ever, and it spawned an actual poignant response from someone. So I actually
Oh,
think I'm a proper podcaster now. I think that's good.
100%. Yeah.
Um, so I was going to ask you about acceptance, but it kind of seems like it's a moot point now because it kind of seems like you just sort of accepted yourself in CrossFit more than you had in swimming, that you weren't chasing anything else. You were just kind of, like you say, I want to be better than last time. Now, I guess it probably helps that you're first in the world
I mean,
and that you've won Wheelwod like a million times.
I can't
Um,
deny that it's definitely a motivator and a focus in its own regard, yes. But I definitely joined CrossFit for, like, making sure my daily life was intact in the
yeah, yeah.
future, so
So when you've won, say the Open the last couple of years, and you've
Yep.
like you've been very successful in the sport. Like, how do you gauge success then? Like, is it like, is not winning a failure when you've won so much, or do you look for success in like more minute areas of what you're doing?
Um, I say that if, when it does happen that I do lose, which, it'll happen, and that's fine. I hope it's not because I didn't put my best foot forward. I want to make sure that if I get second or third to other people around me and I hit PR lifts and I went faster on times and workouts than I thought I was going to, and I performed as well as I could, and that there was just people simply better than me in that regard, fine. I can be totally happy and confident with that. But I've always been a perfectionist, and I've always been somebody that's always been willing to push to that limit and beyond. And so, like, I don't think I've been motivated by other competitors, right? Like, I've seen some guys do some things and lift some heavy weights where I think lifting is in strength in general is still probably the lower end of my spectrum of everything that I can do. So I always, I'm trying to make that a focus, knowing that there's some, you know, tanks that can lift more or equal to me. So it's like that urgency is there to, get better at strength. But at the end of the day, it's like, as long as I'm pushing myself harder than I was last year, and, hey, I got to do that workout in one less set than I did last year, or, I was able to do it at a heavier weight. Like, that's what I'm looking for. And that's what drives me every day, is knowing that, like, there is this objective in front of me, be it a Metcon or a strength piece. And it's just like, how well can Tom do at this today? And where would this put me in my level of own satisfaction with how I did with it? It's not like, oh, I beat him by 12 seconds. Like, that's awesome. Let's go. It's more like, okay, I went 5:30. Like, could I have gone 5:20? Did I only think I was going to go 5:40? Who knows? It's one of those things where I'm just very intrinsically driven with my own performance about how I do. So it's a good and a bad, right? It's a blessing to be able to have that kind of drive and know that that's pretty much there all the time. But it also sucks because I'm always putting a lot of pressure on myself. So, it's a double-edged sword, if you may.
Are you happy with? Obviously, this is the second full year, I suppose, of the adaptive fields being in CrossFit, and it'll be the second time that there'll be adaptive athletes in Madison this year. Are you happy with how it's going? Like, obviously, when it's like the sport is in its infancy, like
Mhm.
compared to other sports, and
Yeah.
then the adaptive field in it is like essentially still a fetus. Then, if the sport
Yeah.
itself is still in its infancy, so are you happy with how it's going? Do you think that there should be more done already? Or are you happy with where it's headed?
So I come from a unique perspective because I was embraced in and just engulfed in the swimming world at a time when it wasn't a thing in the US. Like,
Hmm.
nobody thought about US Paralympic swimming, right? So I didn't think to, like, how do I grow this and how do I make this bigger? Like, I always wanted to try and meet local disabled individuals and bring them to the pool and show them what they could do, but nothing like getting national notoriety and television stuff. So a lot of my fellow athletes don't have that background where, okay, we're adding adaptive divisions to the open, and then we're sending 3 classes of athletes who are probably the 3 most easily adaptable to what's already set up in Madison, right? As equipment movement standards, all of that stuff, like they're the most easy. The standing upper, the standing lower, and the neuros, like they can pretty much fall into able-bodied movements on a regular basis. So bringing them in was totally fine. I have a lot of friends that, would agree that everybody should be in the games by now. Like we should have all the divisions in there. I think it was pretty cool when we had the open last year, because I don't know how many people actually expected that. I think we all kind of taken aback and like, hell yeah, this is awesome. Let's go. So it was pretty cool. And then when we saw the 3 classes move on that we didn't realize were even going to be a thing, we're like, whoa, okay, like pretty cool, but like, why am I still home? So it was one of those moments. And then this year we added the semifinals, right? So that's actually in about a month. The adaptive semifinal is June 2nd through the 5th. And so we felt good about the open. I know there's a lot of issues about people being able to scale the open and be on the leaderboard. Right now, there's only an RX path on the CrossFit leaderboard. And so that's not everything that everybody can do, right? And so I think people in that regard feel a little bit left out. But I know that too will come with time. I think it's just, it is only the second year of us being in the open, and it's such a new population to a lot of your everyday CrossFitters that, those that are managing the leaderboards and those that are writing the workouts probably not always have the same exposure to every single kind of disability out there, or how every single person is going to move. Right. So it's, you got to cut up some slack in that regard. Is like, we're just figuring this out. And with regards to the open, like, it's only going to get better. Like if we didn't have a great year this year, like we learn from that and we take those, suggestions and observations and we improve for the year coming forward. With the semi,
where does your season go from here then? Like you personally,
right? And so this is where it is now. And so we all were under the assumption, after seeing those 3 divisions go to the games last year, Madison, like, all right, next year we got it. We're all in. We're going to do this. And CrossFit had originally told us that, like, well, based on population of the open and how many people actually sign up for the adaptive open, will determine how many people or which divisions go to the games next year. And we're like, all right. Well, before the even open started, they already made the decision that the same 3 classes were going to go to games and nobody else. And so we're like, oh. So that's the part where we're all kind of like, I'm a little bit like, you went against your word in that regard. Like you didn't even give us the chance to try and, vouch for this. I know there's a lot of talk about getting the seated athletes there this year as well. So that was kind of tough to see. But again, for me, like seeing the semifinal be a thing, okay, that's another step forward. That's more to it. So the 3 divisions that will compete at the games in Madison will go to the semifinal as well, where the top 5 will move to the in-person games in Madison. For the other 5 divisions, let me rattle them off here. It's seated with hip, without hip, short stature, visual impairment, and I apologize to whoever I missed. There's one more, but the 5 of us will use the semifinal to be crowned fittest on earth within the CrossFit brand. So like we will still have, like, there's a payout for the top 3. It'll run much like I think the regionals quarterfinals just ran, where we'll be given the workouts on Thursday. You have until Friday.
Okay, so it's at home. It's in your own affiliate.
Virtual. Yeah, we don't have we have a virtual semifinal for us, I think, along with some of the age groups as well. And so, I mean, yeah, double-edged sword there again. Like, yeah, it'd be cool to be in person and be able to compete against our, each other mano a mano. But like, I also love that I have the control of my own environment and I get to use my own barbell, and I, feel comfortable about my surroundings. So,
what's your gym's name?
Adapt and Conquer CrossFit.
What a good name.
Yeah, right.
And do you coach there as well?
Yep.
And you still teach?
Actually, no, I didn't break that hard news yet. So I actually only taught for about 3 years. When even more full circle, I now run the same swim club that I started.
Oh my God.
Steve amazing. And I are now, yeah. So I run one of our branches of our club that I was actually the district I was teaching in. They didn't really have a formal swim program at the time. So
do you work with him? Does he still do it?
Oh yeah. We still work together.
So cool.
Yeah. So it's really fun.
So that's like a Disney movie.
It is. It really is. There's many other cyclical parts that,
Well, maybe like HBO Max or something.
It's a mini docu-series,
Hallmark, yeah. That's so cool. God, yeah. I like Steve. He sounds like he's a good guy.
He's a very
okay. And then, so when is when is the Wheelwod games then? Where are they on?
Yeah, and so there's that element too yet. So we can be crowned fittest on earth by CrossFit, but then we still have the Wheelwod progression as well, which we just finished up stage one, or like the open per se of
Mm,
Wheelwod a couple weeks ago. Stage two will be the top 20 from each division, moving on to stage two in July. And then the top 5 will go in person in Raleigh, North Carolina in October.
that's
Um,
cool.
we were down there in Raleigh last November for the games in person, which was huge success considering that the year prior, due to COVID, we had to cancel the games entirely. So
Yeah.
to have that 18-month cycle basically come back and be able to be in person the way we were was really awesome. So we're looking forward to it this year. I know there's big talks. We were in a local gym, Noose River CrossFit, owned by Johnny Prescott, who is one of the Wheelwod organizers and put on a hell of a show last year. But I think we're already moving to like a larger convention
Oh, that's
center
cool.
setup this year, so it'll feel much more like a semifinal and stuff, which yeah, it'll be pretty incredible. So, I mean, with 8 different categories, male and female, you're still looking at 85 plus athletes that are going to be there. So it's a hell of a time. And hopefully now with the bigger venue, it should be a big spectacle. It should be pretty cool.
And would this be your 5th year winning it?
Hopefully. Yeah.
That's cool, isn't it?
Yeah. Right.
Well, look, we'll finish with a quick fire.
All right. Oh boy.
So, dumbbell or barbell?
Ooh, barbell.
Swim or CrossFit?
Oh, you can't do that. CrossFit, because I can swim in it.
Rings or bar?
Rings all day.
Coach or compete?
Still young, compete.
Gymnastics or strength?
Gymnastics.
I was going to ask actually when you said that you were coaching. So obviously there's like I'm curious about moving from say swim coaching into CrossFit coaching, because I know swim coaching, like, you don't get in the water with the person and
No,
like,
right. No,
like, whereas CrossFit, you have that thing of you can pick up the barbell and say, do this. And
right.
they can learn by watching.
Yep.
If there's movements that you would adapt and you're coaching someone who wouldn't adapt the movements, like, do you think that your swim coaching has given you an advantage there of like, you have to be able to explain it really well because you're not going to jump in the water and do it. Be like, hey,
Yeah.
just do it like this.
Right. No, I totally agree. And I think actually just through my own disability and my own ability to recognize what my body's doing has been really helpful as well. So like I'll watch a swimmer and it's like this osmosis where I feel like I can feel what that swimmer is feeling as they're moving and be like, hey, we need to brace our core better, or we need to have a better hip roll as we're going to their next stroke. It's the same thing in CrossFit. I actually find that one of my strong suits is actually teaching the squat, because I feel like even though I can't physically do it without major support or holding onto a rig and a safety squat bar, I can see somebody's and saying, hey, like, no, we got to turn those toes out a little bit, or, hey, you're letting your knees cave in. And, I can feel that as they're doing it, which is pretty cool. But at the same time, like, I have to be very specific with what I'm going to say. Like, if I have to look at the workout and I have to go in knowing like, okay, I have to go over Turkish get-ups today. All right, well, here, I have to talk through to myself, like, exactly what I know I need to say in order to get this communicated effectively, because I'm not getting on the ground to show it. I'm fortunate enough that we have a TV by our whiteboard. So like I can plop up a YouTube video and show it as well as I'm kind of talking through things, which is really nice. But I also want to try and be as authentic as possible. And, so it's a mix and match of just, showing or maybe grabbing somebody from class to have demonstrate and kind of talk as they're modeling, or just, go with it and see what we figure out.
Yeah, it's remarkable. Like, there's a coach here, Filthy 150.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the owners of that is a coach, and he put up a thing that really got me thinking over the weekend of, know it versus like say it. And I immediately thought of like tying your laces. And if you were teaching someone how to tie their laces and couldn't touch the laces, like, it's so difficult
Yeah,
to
right.
explain what to do.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, just like knowing that our conversation was coming up, I was thinking of like, God, imagine coaching someone how to do a squat. And as you say,
Yeah.
when you need to adapt it yourself to do it. So yeah, it's remarkable. Well, look, thank you for coming on. It's been like genuinely inspiring to talk to you, and I hope that doesn't
Thanks,
sound
man. I appreciate it.
condescending.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you.
It's remarkable the things you've achieved, and I assume we'll go on to achieve. Hopefully, this is 5th in a row this year, and I really hope you get your opportunity to go to Madison, because I think it's
Yeah.
fully deserved, and it would be great to see more and more categories added into the list. To just be fantastic. So hopefully the population keeps growing. And if they increase the population, if they increase the participation based off population for the adaptive field, it gives hope that there might be an extra spot or two for European athletes based on participation as well.
Right.
Well, listen, thanks very much. It was genuinely a pleasure to talk to you, and enjoy your upcoming coaching session there as well.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. It's been a real
Thank you.
pleasure.